Hello everyone and welcome to another roster review by Glasshammer Gaming. And it's me, Manny, and I'm here today to talk to you about my Adeptus Custodes army that won the London Open this past weekend. If you haven't already, guys, please hit that subscribe button, notifications bell in the corner just over there so you know each time we release one of these videos. And also, if you enjoy the content and you would like more exclusive content, including weekly additional battle reports, amazing discounts off our web store, or if you just love what we do here and you would like to support the channel, then please head over to glasshammergaming.co.uk and join the elite. Right, let's get straight into it. So this is my Adeptus Custodes army. I took it to the London Open this past weekend, which was a major in London, as the name gives away. And I came first with it. Luckily enough, I was lucky enough. We had a bit of the luck of the dice gods on our side, and we managed to take first place. And I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the army. First of all, we're going to cover the army list. Then we're going to cover how it works. Then we're going to cover how to tackle it. If you come up against Custodes on the battlefield, what can you do? Whether it's in your lists, tech, because this is the current meta right now. So, what you can do in the list writing stage of your army, your tournament prep, and what you can do on the tabletop to help you have a better game into Adeptus Custodes, which are the hotness right now. And then we're going to talk about any adaptations I would make to this list, or any changes that if you wanted to play this list but not exactly the same, what you could do to maybe improve it or play it slightly differently. So first of all, the list. Let's have a look at section number 1, which is the army list. Very, very important section because that's what's going to tell us what's actually in the list. So it is an Emperor's Chosen battalion detachment. And the reason why I got Emperor's Chosen is because they have the most flexibility. And the reason for that is their stratagem. So their stratagem allows you, like their specific, the Emperor's Chosen shield host specific stratagem is one command point, and it allows you to select one Emperor's Chosen unit in your army and give them a different shield host fighting style, which can be crucial. And you can pick and choose every turn, which is when your army is so elite, it gives you that toolbox option. And I think it's very, very important to have that. So Emperor Chosen Battalion Detachment. In there, we have an Agent of the Imperium, which is my Inquisitor, and he is literally just there for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is he turns off Overwatch in the Tau matchup because his power is Terrify. And reason number 2 is on any turn where you do not need to turn off Overwatch, he can do a psychic action. So he's there to give you access to the psychic section of secondaries from the Nachman book. So it gives you access to another secondary that you can reliably do without risking, the damage potential or anything like that of the rest of your army. Just a 60-point Inquisitor, and he can go and do that on his own, no problem. So that's what the Inquisitor's doing there. Then we have 2 HQs. We have Trajan Valoris. He is the Warlord. He is absolutely fantastic. And we're going to talk about what he does in the How It Works section. And we're going to do the same with the Shield Captain. Now, the Shield Captain he's a Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle Jet Bike. He's a Captain Commander, and I've given him Tip of the Spear. He has the Castellan's Mark Relic, and he has 2 Warlord traits that I've paid for. The first one is Superior Creation, which gives him a 5 up, feel no pain. And the second one is Auric Exemplar, which again is the Emperor's Chosen specific Warlord trait. And we're going to explain what he does in the How It Works section as well. Then after them, guys, we have got 3 troop slots in the army, and that is 2 units of 3 Custodian Guard, all armed with Guardian Spears, and 1 unit of 5 Prosecutors, just with bolters. And then we've got 3 elites and 3 fast attack, and that is the whole army. That is how elite the army is. The 3 fast attack are 3 units of 3 Virtus Praetors, all with salvo launchers, because I think they're very important in the meta right now. And then the 3 elite choices are 3 Contemptor Achilles Dreadnoughts. Achilles Dreadnoughts. I love the Achilles. I think they're so cool. They look like the coolest one with the massive spear. And I think at the moment in the game, they are the best one for the current meta. And now we're going to explain to you why it all works. So I've told you about why the first part of the army works, why the Inquisitor is very important. Now, I'm going to explain exactly why. So you might think, well, he's opening that secondary. Do you really need it? Now, the answer is yes. In my opinion, the answer is yes, because the battlefield supremacy section, Custodes find a little hard in certain missions and a little hard in certain matchups. And that's exactly why I took him. So grind them down or to the last are great options in a lot of matchups. So if you play the mirror match, having the ability to take to the last and play a little bit more reserved than your opponent is massive, because that's points that you can guarantee by keeping your own unit safe and a little bit passive in the game, whereas they won't be able to. So that's a great secondary. Grind them down or to the last. Now you take to the last in the mirror match, but in pretty much every other game you take grind them down, because it's quite easy for this army to kill more units every battle round than they lose, because they are a very, very punchy and killy army. They've got a lot of punch behind them. This bike, sorry guys, that bike is wobbling. And it's really triggering me. So I'm going to put a new bike in there. Sorry guys, I could just see him. Oh, that's better. I could just see him wobbling and it was just doing my head in. So there you have it, guys. That is what the Inquisitor is doing there. He's giving you that option for the third secondary. Now, like I said, to the last and grind them down are both good options, and you can pretty much always choose one of them. Then you have retrieve Nakamun data, which is a bit, but it's in the same category as raise the banners. And in most missions, you can raise 2 banners or 3 banners guaranteed turn 1 and hold them fairly securely with your objective secured units, especially Custodian Guard, which are tough as hell, hit like a brick if somebody comes close to them, and also count as 2 models on OBSEC for the way that they control objectives. So I think that's not a problem either. Banners is a great secondary. If you can raise 3 in the first turn, keep them up, you'll get 15 points. If you can raise 2 and keep them up, you'll get 10 points. You'll get somewhere between 10 and 15 because you could raise 2. Then later on in the game, turns 4 and 5, you can raise 1 or 2 of the banners up the board for a good 12, 13 points. So 10 to 15 is what you're looking at on raise the banners. And then 10 to 15 is what you're looking at until the last and grind them down in pretty much every game. And then it's just that third one. So in some missions, when there are 5 objectives, Stranglehold is amazing. But then in those 5 objective games, you want to be able to use your bikes freely. So you don't want to be capped by taking to the last. So in those circumstances, you can take Stranglehold and raise the banners. But then in the third one, instead of to the last, it gives you the option to take a psychic one, like Psychic Interrogation, which is absolutely massive. Now that you do not need line of sight to the character that you're trying to do it on, and also the range has gone up to 24 inches, it's fantastic. You just pick a character within as long as there is a character within 24 inches of your Inquisitor, you can just cast the power. It doesn't even need to see them. And on a 4+, on 2d6, on a 4+, you are gaining 3 points on that secondary every turn. Or Warp Ritual, you could do Warp Ritual. If you take a Stranglehold on a 5 objective game, it means you're going to be aiming for that objective in the middle of the board, to hold that objective in the middle of the board over your opponent. Now, if you're going to do that, you're going to have Custodes in the middle of the board. He can go with them and sit in the middle of the board, and after 3 turns of doing a psychic action, Warp Ritual, he'll get 3 points the first time he does it, then 4 points the second time he does it, and then 5 points the third time he does it. It's for a grand total of 12 points. So it's just absolutely mega having him, and that's why he's there. It's not that you don't have 3 secondaries. It's that he gives you the option to interchange them to make it favorable in any matchup. And he is huge in the Custodes mirror match. And Custodes are everywhere right now. But basically, if your opponent doesn't have an Inquisitor and you do, you can basically guarantee yourself 12 to 15 points by being within 24 inches of his characters every turn, whereas he cannot do the same to you, and he'll have to take some killy one, like maybe Assassinate or something like that. So it becomes a very hard game for your opponent, and it forces the pressure to be on them. It forces them to have to come out and do something to you rather than you having to go to them. So that's him. Then we have Trajan Valoris. Not much needs to be said about Trajan Valoris. He has 2 warlord traits, but it might as well be 4. So he's got 2 warlord traits, and each one has 2 abilities. So essentially it's four different warlord traits. Now, one of them lets you change your katars, the order of the katars at the start of one of your turns. And also use CP regen on a 5+. So every time you use a command point on a 5+, you get that command point refunded. To a maximum of 1 per battle round, of course. And then his other warlord trait lets him heroically intervene 6 inches instead of 3, and also lets him reroll all of his hits in combat with melee attacks. So he's rerolling his hits, he's heroically intervening 6 inches, he's letting you change your katars, and he's giving you CBs back on a 5+. And if that wasn't enough, for taking him as your warlord in the first place, you gain a command point. So I think he is absolutely fantastic. He also has the moment shackle, which means once per game he can either interrupt for free, fight on death for free, or interrupt for free, fight twice at the end of a phase for free, or the first time he takes a damage roll, anytime he takes a damage roll that you do not want to take, you can change the damage of that attack to 0. So he's got 3 abilities. You can only use one of them though, and it's once per game. It's like a one use only. It's like having a relic on him, the moment shackle. It's very, very handy though, and it comes in useful a lot of the time. Now his combat is very good as well. He has 6 attacks. He hits on 2s, re-rolling his hit rolls, and then he's strength 10, -3, flat 3 damage. Now imagine him fighting twice, how big that is when he's flat 3, and especially because most of the damage in this army in close combat is 2. Just damage 2. So having some access to damage 3 and above is very, very important, and Trajan gives you some access to that. But also, he gives all core units within 6 inches of him reroll 1s to hit and wound. Oh man, he's just a crazy force multiplier for 160 points. You'd be silly not to take it. Then I've got my shield captain on the Dawn Eagle jet bike. Now, he's got 2 warlord traits, the first one being superior creation, which gives him a 5-up feel no pain. Now, let's not forget, he has a 2+ armor save, a 4+ invulnerable save, and 9 wounds on that bike. So every wound that goes through, he then takes damage for, and on a 5-up, he can ignore that damage, and he's got 9 wounds to go through. He is one tough guy to kill. So he just goes around causing a lot of problems. And then his other warlord trait, Auric Exemplar, which means every model he kills in combat, he gets an additional attack for, but to a maximum of 4. And that's very powerful as well, because remember I was saying he's a captain commander and I've paid for him to have tip of the spear. Now that's a 15-point captain commander upgrade that I can pay for. And it means on the charge, he gets reroll 1s to hit and wound. So most of the time that means he's going in there with 6 attacks with his interceptor lance, 6 attacks, and then he's hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. That's probably going to be 6 hits. And then most of the time, his role is to go after small units holding objectives and just kill like an entire unit on his own, like go off and do solo missions. So a lot of the time, the things that he's attacking are toughness 4 and toughness 5. Well, toughness 3, 4, or 5, like little troop units holding objectives. And he is a strength 7 on the charge with +1 to wound. So he's also wounding on 2s, re-rolling 1s with tip of the spear. So he's hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. That'll give you 6 hits roughly. And then wounding on 2s, rolling 1s. And that again should give you 6 wounds roughly. So he's causing 6 wounds. And like we said, these little units that are holding objectives, they normally have a 3+ armor save, or worse, no better. So at best, they're going to have a 6-up save against you. And every one they fail, which should be 5, that you get an extra attack for. So you probably get an extra 4 attacks on average. And you'll kill another 3 or 4 of them. And then he's got a Hurricane Bolter. So all the other bikes of salvo launchers, he has a Hurricane Bolter. And it's for that specific reason, because he's going off doing solo missions. He wants to be able to kill an entire unit on his own. Now with a Hurricane Bolter and his combat, he should be able to do that fairly reliably. But then also his relic is mega, the Castellan's Mark. It lets me redeploy 2 units after we've rolled off to see who goes first. Very, very powerful ability. It means 2 of my Dreadnoughts, and this is what I did in quite a few of my games. I put 2 of my Dreadnoughts right on the front line. And what it allows me to do is if I put 2 of my Dreadnoughts on the very, very front line and everybody else is very tactically deployed, then if I end up not going first, if my opponent gains the first turn, I can just use that Warlord trait to redeploy those 2 Dreadnoughts into strategic reserve. And then they're not on the board and they're going to get shot anymore. Or I can pull them back behind ruins where they can move a slight amount to the side and then go out rather than getting shot turn one. So it's an incredible warlord trait to have. And also, a big thing about it is if there are two dreadnoughts on the front line and then there are bikes, there's like normally like a ruin close to the front line. You can have one unit of bikes hidden there, but then your other units of bikes are hidden in ruins further back in your deployment zone. And then all of a sudden, if you go first, you leave the dreads on the front line and you pull those two units of bikes right out to the front line. And then they've got a bit more reach to go and do whatever they want and just wreak havoc in your opponent's army. So those are my characters, and those are the main things in the army. Then we've got the troop units. So I've got the one unit of Sisters of Silence, and genuinely, guys, they're there just to do actions for me. They're action monkeys. They sit on my backfield objective. And that's what they did all tournament. They sat on the backfield objective and did not move pretty much. They were there the whole game. They were chaining out to block deep strikes like in my deployment zone and stuff like that. But predominantly they just sat on one objective all game, got me 4 points a turn for that objective for every game. And also they raised banners on that objective and made sure that banner stayed up the whole game. So I really like having the prosecutors in the army. Then I had 2 units of 3 Custodian Guard, and their role was exactly the same. But their role was to hold the sort of mid-board objectives, the ones slightly further forward from my deployment zone and my closest objective. So they were holding those objectives in the mid-board because they got a 2+ armor save, 1 up if they're on cover, they got a 4 up invulnerable and 3 wounds each. And who has the firepower to be able to go after them when there are 3 dreadnoughts, like 3 Achilles dreadnoughts, and 9 Virtus Praetors with a shield captain on a bike running in your face? Nobody is going to be able to deal with the Custodian Guard with that amount of stuff running at them. And that's what I found. Loads of people had to divert their attention to go after the dreadnoughts and the bikes. And it meant that my Custodian Guard survived for a very, very long time. And in most situations, actually, they survived to the end of the game. And they're very powerful as well, because if somebody comes to try and steal the objective off them, it's normally like 1 unit. Like my opponents, by that time, they've gone, right, I'm fighting around the middle of the board against all the rest of the stuff in your army. Oh, but I have this one little unit in Deep Strike that can go in and charge and maybe kill a Custodian Guard. And quite a lot of the time people do that. They kill 1 Custodian Guard, or they don't kill any Custodian Guard. And then those Custodian Guard just rip whatever's come down. They have 9 attacks between the 3 of them. They're hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s near either Trajan or the Shield Captain. So they're going to get 9 hits. And then they're wounding you on 2s, and they can re-roll 1. Well, they're wounding you on 3s actually quite a lot of the time, because they're strength 7, -3, 2 damage. But one great stratagem is Slayer of Nightmares. So quite a lot of the time, I've encountered, like in the mirror matchup, when bikes have come in to charge my Custodian Guard, and those bikes are toughness 6. So I know those bikes are toughness 6, and I'm like, well, I'm toughness 5. It doesn't matter that my strength is higher than your toughness, because I'm toughness 5 and you're toughness 6. So because your toughness is higher than mine, I can use Slayers of Nightmares. I believe that's one of the strats here that I had that I was going to say came in very handy. Yes, it is. There we are. Slayers of the Nightmares. You use this strat in the fight phase when Adeptus Custodes unit from your army is selected to fight. Till the end of the phase, each time a model in the unit makes an attack against a unit with a higher toughness characteristic than its own, add 1 to that attack's wound roll. So you get +1 to wound. And for a 3-man unit, this is only 1 CP. So that's very, very powerful, and it came in very, very handy for me. So that's why I have those guys. Not only can they hold objectives and do actions for me, but if somebody gets close, they can hold their own and they can lay down the smackdown. So that's why I've got those. Then we're on to the final 2 units in the army. First of all, we have those Achilles Dreadnoughts. MVP unit with shooting. Oh my god. People are so scared of the salvo launchers on the bikes, they forget all about the Dreadnoughts. And the Dreadnoughts can do a lot of damage because of how reliable they are. They are also ballistic skill 2+, which is incredible. Now, if I could find 30 extra points in the army, I would do something, and we're going to talk about it in the modification section of this video, because it is something that I would love to do, and I don't know exactly how I would wrangle it, but I have an idea, and I'll explain that later. But for the time being, let's talk about what they do. They have 2 shots each that are strength 8, -2, 3 damage. Strength 8, -2, 3 damage. 2 shots each. And pretty much all of the time, they go around as a little ball with Trajan. Trajan give them reroll 1s to hit and wound. Now, so that means like them together, that between them, they have 6 shots. 6 shots at strength 8, -2, flat 3 damage. with reroll ones to hit, reroll ones to wound, and one more reroll from Emperor's Chosen each. Then they all have 6 shots between them, so 2 shots each again, that are strength 5 -3, flat 3 damage again. So it's a lot of flat 3 damage shots, and because they're high quality and they're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s with Trajan nearby, and then wounding most things on 3s and 4s with re-rolling 1s and 1 reroll for Emperor's Chosen. The amount of saves that they're making the enemy take is just insane. And when you make them take that many saves, quite a lot of them will go through, and they are flat 3 damage. Then he's also, each one has also got a Lastrum Bolter. So they're strength 5 -1, 1 damage, and they are rapid fire 2. So they just lay down, they walk up the board 9 inches a turn, just laying down fire to cover the stuff at the front, taking down all the things that have come out to shoot my bikes, essentially, and the Dreadnoughts just run wild. And they're no slouches in combat. They have 5 attacks a model, they hit on 2s, they are strength 14, I believe, -3, and D3 +3 damage. Very, very effective in the current meta into Crusher Stampede and other Custodes. So I really like them. And not only just that, I've paid 1 CP for one of the Dreadnoughts to be Eternal Penitent. And what that does is it gives that one Dreadnought reroll charges for the whole game. I mean, I would pay CP to reroll a key charge every turn. So just paying 1 for the entire, the entirety of the tournament, essentially, just pay 1. And that's just paid in your list and fine, whatever. But it gives him rerollable charges. And not only that, it gives him an extra attack. So that Dreadnought has got 6 high quality attacks and high quality, reliable attacks. Then we're on to the final unit in the army, and they are my Virtus Praetors. Now, I have 3 units of 3 Virtus Praetors. They are the bikes. They've got salvo launchers, which is 1 shot each. It's like Melter. It's 1 shot each. Hits on 2s. It is strength 8, -4, and it's D3 +3 damage. So it's very reliable again into Crusher Stampede and other Custodes. So you'll notice the Dreadnoughts and the bikes are there to play the current meta armies like, Crusher Stampede and Custodes. The Guardians, the Custodian Guard with the Guardian Spears are there for the same reason. They're just holding my midfield objectives and doing actions, but if like a monster or a Custodian bike comes near them, they can do Slayers of Nightmares and wound that thing on 3s or 2s. So again, they are very, very teched into the meta, but they're just overall good at their job. Then yeah, it's just such an all-round very nice, neat army. And we've talked about the secondaries we can take there and how easily you can max quite a few of them out. And then we've talked a little bit about the stratagems. Other ones that were great were Fraternity of Heroes, which lets any unit in my army heroically intervene 3. And I used that a couple of times because it lets characters intervene 6 inches. Any unit that can already heroically intervene can do it 6 inches instead of 3. So it's very good on the shield captain. Indomitable Guardians I used a lot. It's basically an interrupt. It's like the counter-offensive stratagem, except that one, and that's the interrupt stratagem in combat. That one is 2 CP. This one only cost me 1, so it's in my best interest to use this one instead of that one. Then Arcane Genetic Alchemy is like transhuman for me. I use that pretty much every turn of every game, along with this one, the Emperor's Auspice, and that turns off rerolls to hit, wound, and damage for any unit targeting one of mine. So Emperor's Auspice and the Arcane Genetic Alchemy are used pretty much every turn of every single game, and they won me games by the army staying alive. Now, it sounds very tough, very killy, and very reliable at getting its secondaries. So what can you do to tackle this? Let's have a look. So tackling the army then, guys. There are a couple of niche things and a couple of important things that we need to understand. So the important thing is that there is a critical point for dealing damage to Custodes, and that is -2 AP. Attacks that have -2 AP are the most devastating for Custodes, and strength 6 is where you want to be, because then the transhuman strat, Arcane Genetic Alchemy, does not work on you. You're already wounding them on 4s, so what do you care? Or you want to be like strength 4 or 5 with +1 to wound, so again, you're wounding on 4s, so you don't care. And you want to be -2 AP, because that -2 pushes them from their 2 up armor save to their 4 up invulnerable save, and they do not like it. Believe me, it's very dicey when you're rolling 4 ups with Custodes. Every single save matters, and that was the one thing that was scaring me on the weekend, is when people ran things like the Scythed Hierodules, and they came over and they you know, they hit me with that acid spray and it was 3d6 shots. And then it was like, oh, I've got 12 shots. And that's 6 wounds. That's 6 4-ups. And I was like, oh man, I should fail 3. But what if I just fell like 4 or 5 and a whole bike dies just to the shooting officer I died with, like one spray gun? And it did happen, you know, like things like that do happen. You do die. Hive Guard are very, very scary, guys. Out of line of sight shooting is great against this, like the high strength ones, like Hive Guard being -2 AP and then D3 damage, but they're allowed rerolls to their damage from a Maleceptor. That's very devastating for the army. And also a Manticore, like a Guard Manticore is very, very scary. If you buy full payload on a Guard Manticore, that's so scary. It's on 4s. You can make it, you know, reroll 1s if it's Cadian. So you could give it +1 to hit if it could see the target, you know, so just move it to the side maybe a little bit. And then it's like hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, wounding on 3s, and then it's AP -2, which puts them again on that dodgy 4-up invert, and is flat 3 damage. So things that can shoot out line of sight are very, very good because they don't get hit back. But it's only those kind of things like a Manticore and a Hive Guard that are really efficient against these. But then the -2 AP is where it is all at. You want to put as many -2 AP attacks into these guys as you physically can. Another thing is mortal wounds at select times throughout the game. Now, you know, Emperor's Chosen, they have a 4-up feel no pain against mortal wounds. And that's absolutely massive. Yes, it saved me in a lot of times in the game. However, if you play like a combat army and you've got loads of attacks that are flat 3 damage or flat 4 damage, you know, like things that you've put in that flat 4 damage, to make those things reliable and kill things like a biker, you want to be able to put out some mortal wounds. Like, for example, if you do a smite, right? You do a smite and it should do 2 mortal wounds normally. So you do 2 mortal wounds and I have a 4-up feel no pain against that. Yes, I do. But if I fail one, I'm down to 4 wounds. Now that guy in your army, that damage 4 guy, sergeant in a unit that can come in and, you know, do his attacks, his first attack is going to just kill a bike. And that's massive value, you know, like for what you've done there. So I think you do want some access to mortal wounds in it. But not only is that the time to use mortal wounds, but also when I use my stratagem to change my shield host specific stratagem to change any one of these to a different shield host fighting style, they lose the 4-up feel no pain against mortal wounds for that turn. They just get a 6-up feel no pain. And at that point, you want to strike that unit as hard as you can with mortal wounds and go like, here's 7 mortal wounds. And you go, oh, you failed 6. It's a bike and a little bit dead. There we go. We're in. And then also, you want to be able to nullify their damage. That also really hurts them. So like I found transhuman really gets in the way. So I played a Custodian mirror matchup, and that I found the most annoying actually. So, you know, like killing them, in terms of killing them, like we said, you want -2 AP. You want to be roughly, you want to be wounding them on 4 so that the transhuman strat doesn't really work on you. And then also, you want to be able to have some mortal wounds to do. That's how you do the killing of them and dealing with them in that way. But, if you want to annoy them, the reducing their damage is just insane. Anything that reduces damage, makes them 1 damage, is very good. Because all of it is basically 2 damage. And then some anti-tank, anti-tank shots are very good in there because the Dreadnoughts, actually, the Achilles ones, have only got a 5-up invulnerable, not a 4-up like the rest of the army. So if you can get some high-quality shots in that can hit the Dreadnoughts, you'll take them out fairly quickly. And then, you know, then we're just down to the infantry and the bikers and what they can do. Which, obviously, they might not be able to pick up the weight of what the Dreadnoughts were doing. And I might start struggling. So there is that. But then like transhuman is massive. Those bikes rely on going in there because they have 12 attacks. They rely on going in there with their 12 attacks, hitting on 2s and then wounding on 2s because they're strength 7 with +1 to wound. So most things they run into, they wound on 2s. If you can somehow go, well, actually half of those don't wound, you're winning on 4s. All of a sudden they're making you take 6 saves or 5 saves. And then they're killing 1 or 2 models if you've got an invulnerable save, and they're not really doing anything then, and then you can punch them back, and that really, really hurts. So in my opinion, those are the ways. Oh, and also, bring your own Psyker so that you can do a psychic action as well, and you're not on the back foot when they bring their Inquisitor out to do his actions, and also maybe you'll be able to deny their secondary as well a little bit. So those, in my opinion, are the best ways to currently tackle Custodes. You know, Eldar are coming out soon and maybe they'll shake the boat, but that's what I think at the moment. Now let's have a look at some modifications. Now, modifications wise, guys, I really like the army. I don't really want to change very much about it. I love the Inquisitor. I love the Prosecutors, the Guardians, Custodian Guard. Would never get rid of the Captain on the bike or Trajan Valoris. I love the 3 units of 3 bikes and I love the Dreadnought. So why would I want to change any of the units in the army? I don't. But there are some alternatives. Now, the first one is dropping 1 Dreadnought. I'm not a fan of it. I like my 3 Dreadnoughts, and that's why I play them this way. But the other choice might be slightly more optimal. You can drop 1 Dreadnought in your army and give the other 2 Adrathic Destructors. So then they have 4 Strength 5 -3 3 damage shots, and use the other 150 points to get a unit of 3 Custodian Wardens in the army, which have Bodyguard and open you up to a lot more objective play and tactical maneuvering throughout the game. So that's the first one. And the second change, because there's only 2 that I would really make, the second one is keyboard 3 Dreadnoughts, right? Drop the tip of the spear upgrade on the Shield Captain, and drop 1 unit of salvo bikes down to Hurricane Bolters. So you have options. The Hurricane Bolters can deal with hordes and infantry and things like that if you need them to. So it opens you up to more options, but then because you've lost some anti-tank shots, the 30 points that you save by dropping tip of the spear and knocking them down to Hurricane Bolters, use those 30 points, again, to buy the second Adrathic Destructor on all 3 Dreadnoughts though. So every single Dreadnought has gained 2 more shots at Strength 5 -3 flat 3 damage. So you've lost a few salvo launchers, but you've gained a lot of Hurricane Bolter shots and the Adrathics on the Dreadnoughts. And those are my key things for what I would say for adaptations in the army. I wouldn't really want to change the list too much, but by all means, guys, if you have any suggestions for me and anybody that wants to run this list, please leave them in the comments below for everybody to share and try out. And who knows, I might even use it on a battle report. So yeah, there you have it, guys. That is the roster review of the London Open winning Custodes army. If you guys have watched this far and you've enjoyed the content, please hit the subscribe button and notifications bell in the corner over there to show your support for the channel and so that you know every time we release one of these videos. And if you enjoy the content and you would like more exclusive content, including weekly battle reports, amazing discounts off our web store, or if you just love what we do here and you'd like to support the channel, then please head over to glasshammergaming.co.uk and join the elite today. And I will be back next week with another roster review. See you later, guys. Have a good week. Edited Warhammer 40k battle reports, live stream Warhammer 40k games, meta analysis, tournament reports. Hi guys, I'm Manny. I am one of the co-founders of Glasshammer Gaming. I'm one of the current top 5 ranked ITC players in the world, and I play for my international team, Team England, and we are the current reigning world champions. So we started Glasshammer Gaming at the start because we play a very high level, and we realized that a lot of content creators online were more narrative and not really focused on the competitive aspect of the game. And we thought it'd be really cool if we made battle reports, live streams and tactics videos to help players improve in their competitive game, and also for people who are looking to start getting into competitive play, help them along the way and give them some tips. We also have an elite service, and if you join up, you get more in-depth meta-analysis, competitive tournament reports, and even bigger discounts on our store, which are incredible in the first place, and you're basically getting some of the best discounts in the world. If you join up, you also get access to our Discord server, where there are lots of like-minded people who also want to be very competitive and play to the best of their ability, and you'll be added in there with all of them. There are different channels for every army, every faction, so you can talk to other players who play the same armies as you and improve together.